And even Gaelic, even Celtic languages, they originate from the Hebrew in the first place, which is something I will show you with one of the place names this morning. But just as a little bit of a devotional thing before I start into the slides, here we have a Hebrew word that I only noticed last week, because every week I'm noticing words that I haven't noticed before. Now, other than Victor, and I don't think Jacinta's here, does anybody recognise what that Hebrew word is?
That's the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
It is. I said other than Victor.
Die?
You're not included.
He's not included. Just in case
I
in the
don't
naughty
like
corner.
it. You only like it this
Would it be
month.
die? I don't know. Die.
Sorry?
Would it be die?
Die. It's well. It would help if I actually had put in a fatach underneath it. It's actually pronounced day. Okay. It's dalet yod. The yod is a bit like Y in English. It can be a hard y as in yacht, or it can be a soft Y as in ready or steady. It's an eh sound often at the end of a word. So that would actually be the word day. What English word do you think might come from it?
Day.
Day.
Yes, deo, day. Okay. Now, dalet. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something about it, then I'll tell you what the Hebrew word means. Dalet is a doorway. Okay, it's an opening. It's an opportunity. It provides us with a choice of going one way or another way. And can you remember what I said the yod is in Hebrew? What does it signify? It's the smallest letter. Sorry?
The hand.
The hand. Yes, it's the hand. Sorry, I thought you said the head. It's the hand. It's the smallest letter.
Sorry.
Okay, so the yod is the hand, and it represents welcoming divine intervention if you happen to be a believer, but fearing divine retribution if you're not a believer. Think of Maradona back in 1980, whatever it was. 87? Okay, and the quarterfinal of... Eight. And the quarterfinal of the World Cup. Sorry?
78.
78? I thought it was later than that.
It's 78.
I thought it was in the 80s.
No, it's later than that.
Moving on.
Yeah,
Moving on, if I had that projector up, I could confidently tell you, because I have it in that slide. But we talk about the hand of God. Now, we know in retrospect that it was actually a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of Maradona, but his famous quote was, a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. And if you happen to be on Argentina's side, you'll be thinking, wow, I want God on my side. If you're on the England side, you're thinking, that wasn't fair. And that's often what it is with how we perceive the hand of God, okay? But if you happen to be on God's side, you welcome divine intervention, but it can also represent divine retribution. So this word, dalet yod, which is pronounced day, is the Hebrew word for enough. It's the Hebrew word for sufficiency. And there is enough provision for us for the day. There is sufficient. It is every day is an opening, a doorway, an opportunity for us to see the hand of God intervening on our behalf. And that, in a nutshell, is what a day is.
Hallelujah.
And it's a simple, it tends to be most of the earthy English words that we have that come directly from the Hebrew. Now, if you were to Google and look up and say, where does the English word day come from? There's a word D-A-E-G, which is somewhere in the Netherlands, and it means daytime or daylight. But where do you think they got it from? It still originally came from the Hebrew. And that's the same with so many of the words that we'll look at. I'll show you another word.
Well, we have yod, is your hand. We have yatten.
There are some words in Hebrew.
Ah, right.
Yiddish, but that's Yiddish.
Yes, yeah. But I don't think we should be surprised that every language in the world has incorporated Hebrew understanding of things.
I don't want to say another one. Tof is, yeah.
Okay? Now, this, again, we're using the dalet. This time we've got the resh. Can you remember what the resh is? R. It's an R, and it's the reverse. It's very similar in appearance to dalet, but it just doesn't have that corner on it. It's like our English R if it was switched back, pointing that direction. Okay, that would be an R. Now, bearing in mind, Hebrew is read from right to left. That's why this is the direction that the head is going in. So that's the back of the head, and it represents a mindset or thinking, okay? And this letter here, strictly speaking, I should have used a final kaf because it's the end of the word, but a kaf is basically the palm of the hand, okay? It's availability. It's the availability that we make ourselves like. The year 2020, everybody was saying 2020 is 2020 vision, and I was saying no, 2020 is kaf. It's being totally available to God. But the kaf is being available, but it's also, as I said, I think it was yesterday, it's also the sole of your foot is kaf. Your hip socket, the ball socket, is a kaf. It's availability. It's the gold bowl that's in the Holy of Holies, where the incense is offered up, is the kaf, and it's the trees that are worshipping God, totally available to God. Okay? So, what do you think this word might be pronounced as? D-R-K. It's actually a really boring man's name, Derek. Okay? Now, I never got terribly inspired by the name Derek. Okay? Derek
The road.
is a way or a road. And what English word do you think we get out of Derek?
Direction.
Direction. Directly. It's like, where else would we get that word direction from? Other than Derek, which is the way. Derek, ha Yahweh is the way of Yahweh. Ha Derek. It is the way. And it is a doorway, an opportunity to change our mindset, which leads to our availability. And that is the meaning behind the way. It's us actually taking an opportunity to change our mindsets and to follow and to be available to where God leads. Because unless we're available, it's fine saying, okay, I'll go the way you want me to go, Lord, but just wait until I finish what I'm doing. I need to have my hands open and totally available to Him in order to move in a certain direction. As I say, I've actually I've got 47 words in the back of Codex, which come directly from the Hebrew, and I've come up with another 15 that I've got on the phone. So I might share some of these after this presentation. But this presentation is about looking at Scottish names. And what I've done is I took advantage of the fact that I had a lovely hot shower yesterday, and then I fiddled around on my laptop. I like the colour scheme, the blue and white.
Aye, the new.
The Scottish colours. You noticed that? Okay, what I've done is I've decided that there's 4 types of evidence that we're going to look at, because what might convince one person and excite one person might not convince somebody else. So I reckon that there's 4 levels at least that we could look at. And the first level is commonly used biblical names such as Bethany, Bethel, Mitzpah. Like if you come across a house and it has a door plate up on it and says this is called Bethel, you're probably not going to think, oh, there must be people living in there since the year dot who were from Hebrew tribe descent. Because we know that these are commonly used biblical names. So that's one level, okay? But there are significant towns which have been named after these, so that adds a bit more credence to it, that it's not just somebody's house name. But that's one level. The second level we're going to look at is less commonly known biblical names, like Sukkot, which is a place near Ayr and Butte. But there are a lot of other names. Now, we're all familiar with Sukkot, but there are quite a few which I had to actually look up in my Bible to check exactly where they were and what happened at them. So as I say, they're less commonly known. The third category I've come up with are names that are commonly assumed to be of Gallic origin, but which make more sense when we know that they are Hebrew. For example, there is actually a place known as Beit. Not Beth, it's actually known as Beit, okay? Some people call it Beith, some call it Beit, but that's the same as the Hebrew letter. It's some people call it Beth, some people call it Beit. Now, a Hebrew, thank you. Hopefully nobody kills themselves down there and we're not aware of it.
Bum's it.
Okay. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
That's good. Okay. Now, Beth, as we already know, Beit, the letter Beit is a house or a home. But if you look up on your phone, it'll probably tell you Oh no, Beith is Gaelic origin and it comes from the Ogham alphabet and it means a birch. Now that is written by AI, not totally understanding what's going on. Are you all familiar with the Ogham alphabet?
No.
Okay. You are, I take it, Jacinta?
A little.
A little bit, okay. I looked into it a little bit a while back. It's basically the earliest form that remains of the Irish alphabet or the Celtic alphabet or the Gaelic alphabet. And it was basically written in lines. Victor's actually got a stamp that he used in jewellery making, and he's made me a pendant with the word faith written on it, written in Ogham. And it looks a bit like, I would say, a telegraph pole. Or do you know the letter Samek in the Paleo Hebrew? The way it's a line with 3 lines coming down it. Well, it's a little bit like that, because it looks like you basically have a line coming down and then you've got 2 lines down it, and another one is 3 lines down it, and another one's 4 lines down it, and then it depends whether the lines come down this side or that side or both sides. But it's a very basic alphabet. And yes, the letter Beit is a letter in the Ogham alphabet. But where do you think they got the Ogham alphabet from? They've got the letter Beit. The letter R in Ogham is the letter Rosh, as in Resh.
As in Roz.
Yeah, as in Roz. The letter, the letter B can also be pronounced as a V. Just like we have in Irish, you have the name Siobhan. It becomes a soft sound. The same as in Hebrew, the letter Beit can also be a V sound, as in Veit. Like, there's so many things that you can compare between the two of them. And where do you think it came from? It came from the Hebrew. And the reason that they assume that the letter Beith came from birch is that all of the letters in the Ogham alphabet, rather than relating back to a house or a home or whatever, they relate back to the name of different trees. So you've got a fir tree, an oak tree, a birch tree. But it doesn't mean that a beit is a birch. But you can see how the links have come along and it's caused confusion. But in actual fact, there is a place which I'll bring up shortly, which is called Beit or Beith, which would make far more sense to be a house or a home than to say, oh, it's a birch. It just doesn't follow on, okay? And the fourth type are Scottish names that are biblical, but not generally known even by ministers. So, like I'm saying, most ministers, when they go to Bible school or college or seminary, they learn Hebrew purely in the sense of being able to translate it, but they don't necessarily know the meaning of the letters, because I certainly wasn't the meaning of the letters when I did my degree. But this fourth category are words that are a compound of at least 2 Hebrew words. So it reaches the stages of, yes, by chance you might have a word which is Gaelic and Hebrew, and it's just a coincidence. These things happen. But then the more words you come across which are a compound of 2 Hebrew words, then it becomes a little bit more like, what are the chances that this could happen repeatedly over and over again? So I'm going to show you examples of all of these type words. So an example of this is Berit Ish. Dictionaries say that it is of Celtic origin and that it was the Celtic name for these islands. But it's simply a name. It has no meaning in the Gaelic language. Berit Ish doesn't mean anything in the Celtic Gaelic language. However, it does in Hebrew. You've got Berit, which is covenant, and Ish, which is man or people. Okay? So we need to be careful of dismissing things just because AI or our computers tell us, oh, that's Gaelic. That's this, that, or the other, it's Celtic. What were you thinking of saying?
Now, because you're saying that the meaning is of these words in Hebrew, so it makes more sense that the Hebrew is older.
Yes, the Hebrew is older, and it also has meaning. So if you go to the Hebrew came before the dictionaries were written. They came before the Celts came along, and it means Berit is the Hebrew word for a covenant, and Ish is a man, so the people of the covenant. And yes, I'm saying that makes us special, but I'm not necessarily saying it makes us any more special than any other people who come into covenant with Yah. What I'm just saying is somebody who was of significance, who named this place, realised also their position as being in covenant relationship with Yah. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so I'm going to go through all 4 of these categories. Okay, so commonly used biblical names. So place names that occur in Ayrshire. There's a Joppa. There's there was only one there. Place names in the kingdom of Fife, and Fife was originally known as a kingdom. There's the Gomorrah plantation, can be found there. There's Sodom. There's Dothan, and I had to look it up. Dothan is actually where Joseph and his brothers kept the sheep. That's where the folds were, and that's where he was when he was sold to traders. He was thrown into a pit at a place called Dothan. Now I'm saying that these place names, which are less... Oh, I got these the wrong way around. Oh, no, these are... I've actually classed Dothan as being one that people will regularly know, but I'm hoping... actually that's probably more evidence this one, it should be in the one that's less well known. How many regular churchgoers do you know who could tell you where Dothan is? And the significance of it? They probably couldn't. I would say most people who live in Scotland in the town of Dothan have got no idea that it's actually the biblical place where Joseph was sold to the traders. And I think the names which are less well known give more credence to the argument that there must have been people there who knew Hebrew and knew the Hebrew story and knew Torah. Okay? And then there's also a place in Lebanon, it's a street in the town of Fife, and in case you're thinking it was a place more recently named, it was a very old street, and it was eventually built up in 1820. So it's no longer there, but there was the place called Lebanon, and that's all in Fife. So I'm also noticing that there are certain pockets of places which had a strong influence, a strong Jewish influence, a strong Hebrew influence, more so possibly than others, or it may have been widespread, but then over the years new civilizations and new town clerks came in and decided to rename things and thought things needed to be replaced. Okay, so then we come to Edinburgh. There's another Joppa in Edinburgh. There's a Canaan in Edinburgh. There's also the Lost Egypt. I couldn't track down exactly what it was, but there is a place called the Lost Egypt. Other place names in Scotland. There's a Babylon town just north of Stonehaven on the east coast. Jericho can be found in Angus. The Zorcroft was in Warness. Now, from what I can make out, it seems that the area where the Zorcroft was flooded in order to make a reservoir. But it's near Warness, but it no longer exists, but it was standing for a long time. And then you've got the Carmel Bank in Kilmarnock. I'm just noticing this is not letting me see my notes. So I'm just going to just check it.
But Edinburgh is also Eden.
Yes, we're going to do that under the words which are 2 words. Okay.
It's going to close this blind.
Yes, it's very bright, and I'm getting a bit of glare on the screen as well.
Why would they name the places such? It's like calling your daughter Athalia or Jezebel. Why are they taking these Gomorrah and Sodom and naming places Babylon? Do you think?
I really don't know.
It's odd, isn't it?
It's odd, but they could have been places that they hated and they thought the locals won't understand the significance. I don't know.
Okay, that's a good point.
I think Gary's that's the $1 billion question. We're going to have an answer for that at the end.
Thank you. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it to work.
Is it in presenter mode? It needs to be in presenter mode when you're doing it. And I think because you put it on duplicate, so you're duplicating what you have, splitting the screen, so it shows you what you want to see, but it shows us what we need to see. Want me to come around?
Yeah, because it doesn't give presenter mode as one of the options. I normally do have it in duplicate. Either duplicate or... Okay, yeah, Jericho in Angus, Zorcroft, Carmel Bank, and then we have Abyssinia in Butterbridge. And Abyssinia is the biblical name for Ethiopia, or the Horn of Africa. and many of the Philistines came from there. Okay. So as you say, again, Abyssinia, why would you want to call a place that? And yet, maybe there was something even about it that they felt reminded them of what their experience of the place was. I don't know. But I just thought it's extremely interesting. And like, at this stage, you're all probably thinking, yeah, this isn't much evidence. But I think as we go down the 4 categories, it becomes more convincing. Okay? So place names in Perth, there's a Goshen, and it's near Scone, as in the stone of Scone.
I have one of those.
So a Scone. So now we come.
Yeah, it's totally scone.
Now we come to the less common names. So, like, to me, if somebody just told me, right, there's a place called Jericho, there's a place called Joppa, I would say, oh, that's just a sign of somebody who's got a little bit of biblical knowledge. It doesn't necessarily prove anything. But as I say, I find it more compelling as we come through these categories. So category 2 is less common names, okay? Oh, sorry. And I thought this one, the first one was interesting because everybody talks about Albion, the ancient name for Scotland, as if that's a game changer and it can't be a case that it's from Hebrew descent. But Abi Albon, or Abi Albon, it means father of strength, and it appears in 2 Samuel 23 verse 31. So even that is a biblical name. And if we then come round to who Albion was, his language would also have been descended originally from Hebrew. So do you see what I'm saying? We're covered on every base if we take the time to stand back from the different arguments that are put forth. So I'm coming now to Stirling. And Stirling, we've got Stirling Albion. And there's also a place called Ramoth Castle. Okay, and Ramoth Gilead is Hebrew for the heights of Gilead. So Ramoth means the heights, and there is a Ramoth Castle in Stirling. Sorry?
Ramoth Rachel in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Like a top hill.
Yeah. And Gilead is the old name for Kilbride. And in actual fact, there's an area of Kilbride now known as Mount Gilead. And it's interesting that there's a Ramoth and Gilead both in Stirling. Doesn't that look like joined up thinking? The people were naming the places? Okay. Is the front door still open?
Yeah.
With the drum?
Somebody came in.
Yeah.
He's gone out there.
Okay. Sukkot is the Hebrew word for tabernacles. And I put this in less well-known names because certainly I've never heard the name Sukkot used in church anywhere, ever. Okay? And Sukkot is a village in Argyll and Bute. And a couple of miles away from there is Arrochar. And Arrochar, can anybody remember what happened at Arrochar?
No.
Arrochar is where Jacob's well was located. Yes. Isn't it amazing? And this is just a couple of miles away from a place called Sukkot. Whereas you can it's easy to just Google Sukkot, where does it come from? And they'll say, well, it's not spelt the same way as tabernacles, therefore it can't be the same thing. But that is the Western mindset of AI. It's been trained to think that unless something is exactly the same spelling, then it can't be the same thing. But one important thing we have to bear in mind is until kind of the last 100 years, 200 years, most people were totally illiterate. If they couldn't even write their name, do you think they knew how to spell a place name? Like, I even see it now up around Ballymena, where we come from. There is a road called the Frosses Road that heads north from Ballymena up to the North Antrim coast, up to Portrush, Port Stewart. And on the Frosses Road, one end of it is spelt the Process Road, and the other end it is spelt Frosses. It's spelt two different ways. And frequently you come to road signs, street signs in Belfast, and it's not just spelling the Irish, but whoever ordered up the sign misspelt how they told the sign maker how to spell it. So I think it's good. I think it's,
dyslexia.
yeah, totally. You wouldn't imagine that it would happen in this day and age. So imagine 200 years ago, imagine 1500 years ago, imagine 2000 years ago. And like these place names have been named like this since the year dot. So we shouldn't be surprised if something doesn't, and even when you look at many of the Jewish modern Hebrew spellings, Israeli spellings of things, they spell them slightly differently. Like they spell Kodesh with a K, and which wasn't necessarily how it was spelt in the Hebrew, in the biblical Hebrew. So when you are aware of these things, we shouldn't be, we need to think a lot when I'm doing this, and this is not a cop-out. We need to think, how did it sound? Does it sound like the same word? If it sounds like the same word, then the chances are it is the same word, because I think there's quite a compelling, now this is not conclusive, this is just some ones that I quickly managed to locate, because there's no dictionary anywhere that lists the Hebrew Scottish words. Okay, so now, Pisgah, are you familiar with the name Pisgah? Because I wasn't.
No.
Pisgah is,
Balak.
sorry?
Balak.
Yes.
It is cursing from Pisgah.
Yes. Well, but yeah, you got a context for it there, that's good, thank you. Now, Pisgah today is generally known as Mount Nebo, and it's the region just east of Jordan and northeast of the Dead Sea. But if there's only one, even if there's one person, and I must admit, Gary is not the norm. Gary Park is not the norm, the average person that you find in a church, is he? Okay, so how many people do you think with Gary's knowledge are going to be in the average church? So probably, if Gary wasn't standing there, I could go to thousands of people and ask, what is Pisgah? And they'll just look at me as if, oh, is that another one of your crazy words that you bring up in a concordance?
I don't think any of us here knew
No. Well,
what it was.
I've heard it.
yes.
I didn't know what it was.
But it is a Hebrew place name, so wouldn't you be surprised if there was a place in Scotland called Pisgah?
Yes.
Wouldn't that suggest that it was somebody who knew Hebrew?
Yeah.
There is not just one, two, there are 3 places in Scotland called Pisgah.
Do they have a stutter?
No, but obvious, like, do you not think that is quite convincing? No, I've never done this one before.
In your previous classes?
No, I've never done this one before, at least you're learning something
Glad I'm
today.
here now.
So, yes.
So just quickly, so Pisgah, what does it mean? Literally translated.
It's a
to
slang
river.
Scottish word, just one who's drinking too much.
So for example, if it's Little Hill, and they've named
Yes.
3 places,
Pisgah
Little
was
Hill,
like
that have got a Little Hill,
Uh-huh.
it would add more weight to it, if you know what I mean.
Someone's been
Where's my, oh, I didn't bring the phone down with me.
Okay, maybe it doesn't matter.
I've got my
I
phone.
just thought you might have known just offhand.
I did look it up and I've forgotten to type it in, and it probably does mean something like Little Hill, but I can't remember. I cannot remember what it means. I must have left my phone up at the house, so I can't even check it in the Bible dictionary. I will look it up, but anyway, the point I'm making is, if we're not familiar with Pisgah, then it's interesting that there's one in, no, it doesn't mean Little Hill, there's another word that means Little Hill, doesn't mean it.
No, that was
Well,
just a guess.
It would be the pay.
with
It would be the
sin or the
Sound-
samach and then a gimel.
The
and
pay
then
is the pay is the mouth,
Pisgah.
so it may be to do with the mouth of a river.
Pisgah, yeah.
Then the S, it actually could be.
Or it could be.
It
yeah,
could be a
Pisgah.
tzadeh in the middle. I'm not sure. I'll need to investigate it.
A tzad-
I did look it up, but I forgot.
tzaddik.
Sorry? Yeah, it could be a
It's-
tzaddik rather than an SG in the English. But anyway, there's one there, and the Pisgah, which is just above Dunblane, is on the road to Dumyat in Scotland. And Dumyat, to me, sounds like Damietta, which is a place in Egypt. Okay? There's a Pisgah in South Lanarkshire, and there's a Pisgah in Ayrshire. So, I say, these are less well-known names. It's not like Bethel or Hetzibah or anything like that. It's not really on the
Does
tip
that-
of our tongues.
Does that help at all? It's Blue Letter Bible. That's one version. Sorry, one. It says Pisgah there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means anything.
No. What I actually have is I've got. Let me just check quick on this. It's from Pei Samek Gimel, which is a cleft. Yeah, that did help. Thank you.
So like a
So
cleft
yes,
in the rock.
so it's a cleft of a rock. Thank
Right.
you.
So you got it kind of
Thank you
right.
very
with
much.
the Bits of rock.
So yes, if it means the cleft of a rock, yeah. But it's too much of a coincidence not to be that there was somebody who understood Hebrew who would have come up with it. Do you agree?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. Next screen. Yeah, I was just saying about Dumyat. Dumyat is basically the name of a hill in central Scotland, and as I just said, Damietta is a place in Egypt. Then there's also a Gera on the slopes of Dumyat. Like, surely there's something going on there. Now, does anybody know? This is just something that I don't know whether the Holy Spirit dropped it into my spirit or whatever. But anybody know who Gera is? Not Tom and Gera.
That sounds
It's
like
another
Gerard.
Gera.
Jere would be a
Gera.
Jere. It's
Now-
not connected with Yamil. It's not with Jeremiah.
No. Gera is actually the son of Joktan, a descendant
Joktan.
of Noah.
Oh well.
Okay? So why do you think Scots are known as Joks?
Oh.
There you go.
I don't know, but it just came to me
I was
yesterday.
actually thinking that when I was
Yeah.
driving up there,
Yeah.
where did that come? What's the origins of chocks?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's the tribal connection, isn't it?
There could be a tribal connection. It's as likely as not. Okay? So, okay, now the plan of Dura was in Babylon, but as I've said, people
There's a joke.
learnt by speaking
Interesting.
and the sound of a place. So there is a Dura, spelt with a J, is an island in the Hebrides.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting the islands and even the fact that Hebrides we know is being from the word Eber, the ones who crossed over, or the Hebrews. Okay, so you've got the island of Dura. Now moving now on to category 3. So we've only now moved through 2 categories, and you're seeing it's starting to build up a more complete picture. Category 3 are words which would only be known or used by somebody familiar with Hebrew. But we might argue some of the previous ones, like Pisca, fall into that category. Okay, bara is the Hebrew word meaning to create or to heal, as in Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, God created, or in the beginning, God healed. It's bait and resh would be the root of it. Okay, so bara is to create or heal. There's an island in the Hebrides called Bara Island. AI would tell you it's spelt with 2 R's, but who's going to clarify?
be.
Sorry?
Well,
Yeah, who's going to say that it can't be the same place or the same meaning because it just sounds exactly the same? Bara. You can't tell whether Bara is spelt with 1 R or 2 R's until you see it written down. And that's how people learn languages. It's how a baby learns. They hear sounds, and then eventually they're taught to make the sounds make sense because you associate a sound with an object. And then the next stage is learning to write it down. And that's the same with civilizations. Writing things down and being pedantic about the spelling about something is a very recent luxury that we have that people haven't had in the past. Okay? Now, beit, as we know, is the Hebrew word for a tent or a house or a home. And as I said, there's actually a small town in North Ayrshire which is known as Bait, but some of the locals call it Baith, some call it Bait. But most people don't know that Bait is the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet. You could argue, as I said, that it comes from the Ogham, it comes from the letter in the Ogham alphabet, but where did Ogham get its alphabet and the letter called Bait from? From the Hebrew, which was far older. Okay? Shet is Hebrew for Seth, the 3rd son of Adam. So where do you think we get Shetland Islands from?
Shetland ponies.
Yeah.
Praise our King.
Exactly.
Praise our King.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we all think, we're so conditioned to think of Seth was his name, but it was actually Shet. So Shetland Islands. Yeah.
Was it? Oh.
And then over off the coast of Ireland, we've got the Aran Islands, and in fact, there's 2 groups of Aran Islands. There's Aran Islands quite west, and then quite far south. There's another Aran Island down there. So moving now on to category 4, compounds of Hebrew words, because as I'm arguing, when there's so many levels of Hebrew, surely it's too big a coincidence to say that all of these have to be down to chance. Eden comes from din or dan, and basically means the base or the pedestal, and it's also where we get the word the tribe of Dan, the judges, from. And we know that bara is to create or to heal. So we've got Edinburgh. Everybody says a borough is a town, but that is later thinking, because if you have bara means to create or to heal, bara can actually mean to build. So when you start to heal the land, you start to turn the soil over, you start to irrigate it, you start to grow crops, you start to build more houses, you eventually build something bigger which has been healed, which has been created. In other words, a town. But we all think, oh, borough. That comes from borough, which is a town. And it's not even spelt borough, it's spelled Edinburgh. But Edinburgh is basically a base, pedestal, and to create, heal. I'll show you some more examples. Aberdeen. As we know, Eber is the Hebrews, or the descendants of Eber, and Abraham is derived the word from Eber, and he was a descendant of his, and it also means the ones who crossed over. And Dean or Dan is the judges, the lords, the lairds. So Aberdeen is a place of Hebrew. In fact, it's even got a Scottish accent if you say Aberdeen as Aberdeen. It's the place of the Hebrew judges, or the place of the people who are in charge or ruling. Now, just to point one wee thing out, the Gaelic word.
His last name is Dean.
Sorry?
His last name is Dean.
Oh, right, is it? As in the judges. But you see, we now.
The tribe of Dan.
Yes.
I thought they were gone.
It is
I
definitely.
thought they were.
It's the tribe of Dan, yeah. Because we tend to
Tribe
look.
of Dan is.
Really, vowels are much less significant than consonants. Now, in the Hebrew, I'm not going to go way off, but in the Hebrew alphabet, all of the letters are consonants. And in actual fact, we've all been taught the wrong thing at school. We were taught that vowels are A, E, I, O, and U, and the consonants are the other 21 letters. But in actual fact, every letter in our English alphabet is a consonant. Okay? But yes?
Yeah, when I was younger, I grew up my teenage years in a place called the Borough.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first place outside the old Roman London, south. And it was called the Borough.
Right.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they knew where they were. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any significance to Edinburgh, and 10?
10? I don't
Judge,
know.
because isn't it a 10, well, 12 or 10, you have...
Well, yeah, with the governance,
Like a
with the number of people in it.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'd have to investigate that. Yeah. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, all 26 letters in our English alphabet are actually consonants, but 5 of them are used as vowels. And you could also argue that a Y is sometimes used as a vowel. Now, I don't want to go too deeply into this. I can teach on it, but I'm just going to be as brief as I can because I hope I'll keep your concentration better that way. Basically, the word vowel comes from the Latin word vox, which is talking about your voice. It's basically sounds that you can make without moving your mouth. You can say things like that when you're at the dentist or at the doctor's, okay? And they've got a piece of wood stuck in your mouth. But consonants means with sound. And in order to pronounce a consonant, you need to use your lips, your labials, or your dentals, your teeth, or your tongue, okay? If you aren't able to use your tongue because you've been at the dentist and it's all swollen, and you can't use your mouth, and you can't use your teeth, and you try to sleep, you can't, okay? Right.
I think you sound like that.
Okay, sorry. Hopefully that part wasn't filmed. Okay. Now, if you can use your teeth, you need a consonant is using your teeth. So if you want to say M, you need to use your lips. You can't say M And you can't say M without your lips. You can't say, it just doesn't sound right, okay? Likewise, if you want to say B, you can't say B without your mouth. You can't say D, that you get a D. Do you get what I'm saying? You have to use your lips, your tongue, and your mouth basically to talk, your teeth to talk. Okay. If you're saying that vowels don't need to use those three areas, then how do you say uniform, or email, or anomaly? If the letter appears at the start of a word, or you have a diphthong, which is like two vowels together in the middle of a word, then you need to be able to use these three things in order to pronounce them, and that makes vowels consonants. So we were all duped at primary school when we were told that vowels and consonants were separate. All letters in our English alphabet are actually consonants in the right context, but 5 of them are actually used as vowels as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Right. I can't think why on earth I was telling you all that. I'm sure there was some significance.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
Oh, definitely good. It was good.
yeah.
It was
Oh,
good.
right, okay. So the
Right.
reason I was telling you that was vowel sounds are less significant in the Hebrew, and that is why Hebrew is written just with consonants. But the letter aleph is a consonant. That's why you might be thinking, but sure, an aleph, if it's an A, then it's a vowel sound. It's not. It is what I call a placeholder. It's like a set of brackets that you know that it can be any vowel sound depending on what vowel dots or little T-bar or line or whatever is written below it. Yes, 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 because without ish, without having an aleph in front, you're not going to know that the word is, without an I, as, it's not Sadiq, what's the letter? I forgot what the name of the vowel is, the I vowel. Forgot the name of it. Anyway, without the dot for the I there, you're not going to know whether that's ish, to be a man or a person, or whether it's esh, which is the word for fire. So the vowels are important, but they don't carry the meaning of the word. So that's why when I put up the consonants and say that's the word Derek, I haven't put the e's up. But if we had had time for me to show you all the vowels and put them up, then it means that you can actually confidently read the letters and know how to pronounce them. But anyway, we'll keep going. So what I'm going to say was, the Gaelic word for a fort is Dun, as in Dunseverick or Dundee. But a Dun, if it's a fort or a castle, but the fort or the castle is the place where the Adonai or the Lord or the Laird or the judge would have resided. They would have needed to have been living in a safe place. They wouldn't have been living in a tent down the street. So Dundee was the fort or the residence of those who ruled over the River Dee in that region. So yes, it's correct that the Gaelic word is Dun, but really Dun is the same as Din or Dan. All of those, they're all connected to the tribe of Dan, and the word for a judge. Okay, Ben Nevis. Ben, as we looked at, is Hebrew for son. Nav or Navi is a prophet. So Ben Nevis is the son of the prophet, depending on whether you decide that the S on Nevis is, as in possessive, Ben of the Navi, or Ben of the plural prophet. Now this next one just made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up on end yesterday, and I think this is probably the last one, is this place, Camas Salach. It's a locality in the Highlands of Scotland. Have any of you ever heard of it? No? Any idea what Camas is?
Like something you wear on your face.
You might think that, darling, please.
Scent though, Salah, scent, right?
Sorry?
I know Salah, I'm jumping to Salah.
Yes. And what's Salach?
Scent,
Scent.
Descent?
Salah. Sent, to be sent. Shalom, shalom is
Okay.
I
An
don't know.
emissary.
Okay. Well, now, you
Hamas.
will know this next word.
Oh
that
gosh,
this-
I hope it's not what
it is.
Is it related to violence?
Yes.
Hamas.
It's actually
Hamas.
Hamas.
Yeah.
Hamas, yeah.
It's actually Hamas.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, right.
Yes.
That's it.
It's actually a
Hamas,
chet. Chet mem samek.
Set
To
of
treat
evil.
violently or wrongly. Okay?
Does it also mean heat, fire, like
Come.
intensity.
Come.
there.
Come across that.
Come.
It's
Come
connected
is
to the
it,
root.
right?
It's
Come.
in Psalms.
Yeah.
Roz, the
Okay.
Irish word for dirty
Yes, that's what I'm
is
going.
salach.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna say to you is this, okay?
Well, it's
Salach is actually to forgive or to pardon. When I looked it up, okay. But I don't think I've practiced. Yes, in one place online, I found that it was believed that Kama or Kamas is the Gaelic word for a bay, because there's also a Camas Aina just across the water from it. But they said that Salach, but it's actually spelt it's almost like Salich, was dirty.
Yeah.
And willow, and it's also willow. And there's a lot of vagueness there. So it's a case of what are the chances that it's meaning to forgive or pardon somebody who has been treated violently or wrongly, or that it means dirty bay. Doesn't really make very much sense. But like, what are the chances, 1 in a million, that there's a place which actually has the Hebrew name Hamas Salak?
the 2 words together. Yeah.
It's very, very strange. Now I know what
I
you
could
know.
account for the warrior spirit in the Scots and
Now, before any of you decide you want to go and find this place, I just want to exercise caution. I found online a woman who had visited this place, and she had gone walking, and apparently there was a footpath, and it said not to venture up the track that led to the house, but it was okay to walk along the foreshore if you're a pedestrian, but not to go anywhere near the house. And the woman, I just think sometimes people can be walking into danger without even realising what they're doing. But she said she walked along the bay. She decided to walk along, as she'd been there once before, so she decided to walk up the track as far as she could, believing she was nowhere near the house. And then suddenly found she actually was right up at the house, and there were these armoured vehicles there, and a lot of people, and all the windows were boarded over. So I don't know whether this place has been called Hamas Salak for hundreds of years, or whether it is a stronghold for a group of ISIS guys who have decided, can they get away with calling it that blatantly without people catching on that that's what they're actually doing there. I don't know. But I would exercise caution if you're thinking of wanting to visit it, because it sounds an interesting place. And again, with all of these places, we don't know exactly when some of them were named, but we do know that Edinburgh and Aberdeen and Dundee and all of these places have been called that for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So that is the end of that part of the presentation. And what time is it now? It's 12:25.